Okay, guys. Okay, thank you for coming. It's time to get started. Thank you for coming to my little talk. So today I'm going to get a little vulnerable. If I'm honest, I'm like a pretty private person, and even clients that I've worked with for many years don't know about my journey with chronic pain. And so I wanted to share that a little bit today because I think it is important for those who live with chronic pain to also hear the stories of others who are going through it. Not just the stories of people who are in the middle of it, but people who've come out on the other side. And so that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey with chronic pain. And I'm also going to uh, give you all of the big takeaways on what kind of moved the needle for me. What were the things that I did to turn things around and that I still do to this day? So, what if you're, yeah, just pop into the chat. Let me know where you're from. Just say hi, give me a little emoji, a wave. I'm going to be watching the chat. So you're always welcome to pop in and put a question in. I'm going to look at those and I'll answer the questions maybe halfway through and then at the end. So feel free to use that chat as much as you would like. Okay, so when I was in my early 40s, just as I was starting to see the first signs of perimenopause, which I didn't know what they were at that time, first symptoms were night sweats. Yes, waking up in a pool of sweat. Didn't realize that was perimenopause until more recently. I also began to experience another symptom of perimenopause, which is joint pain. So 60 to 80% of women will develop joint pain during perimenopause. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but women experience chronic pain more than men, and women in midlife experience chronic pain more than any other stage of life. So there is a correlation between this age 40 to 55 and chronic pain. And I'm going to help to connect the dots for you a little bit here. So the chronic pain that I developed was initially excruciating ear pain. It came out of nowhere, and it was so horrific that I went to the doctor right away, only to find out that my ear was absolutely fine. Just looked in there. Oh, nothing wrong with your ear. And so, like many of you, this was my first frustrating brush with the medical system that would continue to play out just almost exactly like this for the next 6 years, because it turned out that my pain was actually temporomandibular joint disorder. So my right TMJ is what we would call bone on bone, right? The surface of the condyle is flattened out. And so in addition to the ear pain, eventually I had jaw pain, face pain, neck pain, and over time, other weird symptoms like food textures, feeling like I was eating paper, constant sore throat, hoarseness. And eventually, in addition to temporomandibular joint disorder, I was diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia, which is an excruciating nerve condition, also known as the suicide disease. So I took all of the horrible pills that they give you for nerve pain. I'm sure a lot of you were on these pills too. The side effects are almost as bad as the pain itself. I did countless hours of physical therapy. I spent way more than I was comfortable on physical therapy. I went down every rabbit hole. I contacted every single specialist, and my heart was broken over and over and over again. I felt dumb. I felt taken advantage of. I was frustrated. I was hopeless because I never even got a little bit better. Never even got a little bit better. I just got worse, right? And if you're like me and a lot of my clients, this is what you've been going through as well. So I was in pain at work. I had to say no to profitable opportunities as a business owner. I said no to stuff with my kids. I hurt all the time, even when I was resting, even when I was trying to sleep. It was a nightmare. And I feared that it had no end. You probably know this feeling, right? You're bouncing around between the specialists, always with that little kernel of hope, even though you've kind of learned that your heart is about to get stomped. And you're hoping this could be the step that will provide relief. And you know what it's like to try a treatment that's supposed to work for everyone else, only to find out that, oh, this one doesn't work for me either, right? So today I'm not just going to share my story. I'm going to show you why you're not failing and why the missing piece isn't another pill. It's not another specialist. It's not another diagnosis. It's about how we address the entire human experience. By the end of this, I'm going to share a tool, my neural audit, that would have saved me years and tens of thousands of dollars if I'd had it back in 2015. So in 2020, after years of this agony, weirdly, I enrolled in a 300-hour yoga teacher training with someone who I admired very much, still admire very much, Jules Mitchell, who specializes in yoga and biomechanics. So it's a very evidence-based approach to yoga. And in her training, I learned for the first time about pain neuroscience and also somatic education, mostly Feldenkrais method, but other somatic education traditions as well. And it made more sense than anything that I had learned in years of trying to understand my joint, my nerves. Suddenly, everything connected when I learned that my nervous system was calling the shots. That's why my symptoms could feel so bizarre, right? Like the chewing on paper situation or the hoarseness. Why my stressful job and super, super, super crappy marriage were making me worse. By the way, my divorce was final almost exactly 1 month ago. So if you want, put me a little congratulations in the chat. Very, very, very happy about that. And what I learned made more sense than anything I had learned previous to that, right? What I learned was that my pain was neuroplastic. Neuroplastic. And if you're wondering, oh, does this term apply to me? Is this something that I should bookmark? If your pain has lasted longer than 3 months, which is normal tissue healing time, certainly more than 6 months, it's highly likely, whether you have verified tissue damage or your doctor says we can't see anything in scans, it is highly likely that your pain is what we consider to be neuroplastic. What that means is that the pain is no longer coming from the joint or injury. It's coming from a nervous system that has learned pain. It means that it's not in your head. It's in your brain. It's in your nervous system. It's in your unified self. So I dove in on this. I took a 12-month membership in pain science with my mentor who's in British Columbia. I studied Feldenkrais method online, like everyone did everything in 2020. And thank goodness, because I got to study with some really phenomenal teachers. And that probably wouldn't have been available to me in 2019. So as I started to apply all of these techniques, all of these things that I learned from the mountain of scientific research that I was reading in my mentorship, all of the books that I was reading, I never encountered anything or anyone using these techniques on temporomandibular disorder or trigeminal neuralgia, which is unfortunate because if you are afflicted with these conditions, you know that the treatment options for these are limited or non-existent, even if you have verified joint damage, right? We just don't do surgical repairs on the temporomandibular joint. It would make things much worse. So I had to figure it out, and it wasn't easy. I would settle on a technique that I had learned from my mentor in a book, right? Or a research paper, and I would practice it and try it for weeks with no relief, and then I'd start over. I was developing mindfulness and movement and mindset and exercise strategies, and it would take weeks to experiment and discard the duds. It was at times very demoralizing, like it wasn't going to work for me, like everything else that didn't work for me. And then weirdly, slowly, things started to get better. So have you ever felt like you were on this hamster wheel of strategies and treatments? Right? Have you ever felt like, why does this work for everyone else? Like, am I that broken? Or is it in my head? Have you ever felt that way? Pop into the chat, let me know. Believe me, I've been doing this for a long time. These are not uncommon feelings, okay? So let me help you to see the things that move the needle for me, because you don't have to do this part. I already did it for you, okay? Here are the things that I landed on that made the biggest impact, which meant that all of the stuff that I had been working on was actually more effective, right? These are the things that you'll never hear about in your doctor's office, okay? So you might be like me and have maybe begun to believe that your body is your enemy. It feels like your adversary. Um, Once I realized that my pain was the product of a nervous system that's just trying to protect me, the dots connected. My nervous system was not sensing safety. It was sensing danger, something we call in the pain science world, we call danger in me. I did not have safety in me. And so acknowledging this also helped me to acknowledge that actually my body is my very best, most loyal friend. It's trying to protect me. And because it's been stuck in this protection mode for so long, it just keeps amplifying, right? It's like that snowball going down the side of a mountain. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger because the adaptation was to protect me more if there was consistent levels of danger, which there was in my nervous system. So the first thing that I had to do was learn how to read my body's signals. I know this seems like, what? How does that help? But listen, if you're a woman in midlife, you've been suppressing and ignoring your body's signals for a long time, right? Like when we were little girls, we had to raise our hand if we needed to visit the bathroom, remember? And the teacher could say no. When we were young adolescents, right? And we had other reasons to visit the bathroom, we had to get permission. How many times as a youth were you told, don't be sad, don't be mad? It's not ladylike, right? And as we got older, right, and we had kids to take care of and a household and a husband and a job, and we were tired and we were burnt out, we had to ignore it. There's no time for that. I'm not important enough for that, right? And so, yeah, we're pretty practiced at ignoring our body's signals, right? We're practiced at pushing through. And that's not going to work in midlife for the reasons that I just discussed, right? We know that in midlife, we are more susceptible to developing joint pain than at any other time in our life. That's not by coincidence, right? So I had to learn to attend to be aware of my body's signals before they became a shout. I had to listen to the whisper. Okay. I had to learn to speak the language of my body. And that's the first step that made everything else more helpful. And my knowledge of biology helped me to change my mindset about my body being my enemy versus my friend too. Because all biological entities heal. They learn. That is the fact of life. Biological entities adapt. And the inputs that I was providing, that ignoring and suppressing and pushing through, were causing me to adapt in ways that supported hypervigilance, supported chronic fight or flight, and overprotection. I had to learn to speak the language of my body. One of my favorite quotes lately is by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And she says, to become native to a place, you have to learn to speak its language. So many of us cannot converse with our bodies. I had to learn to do that, and you will too, if you're going to overcome this pain issue. The next thing that I needed to do was, and this is going to sound weird, unless you've been in my universe and then you've heard me say this before, I needed to address my perfectionism and my people pleasing. So this realization that I needed to attend to my body, to respond to it appropriately, helped me to develop strategies that provided the inputs I needed to adapt for peace, relief, confidence, and comfort instead of chronic fight or flight. And so I had to address my overfunctioning at home and at work. Because overfunctioning, people pleasing, perfectionism are the opposite side of the pain coin. Because they're protection responses, right? They're the things you do to keep yourself safe, to keep yourself secure, to keep yourself in a supportive community, right? To avoid ostracization, to avoid judgment, right? And so when we can start to set boundaries, to become aware of our own preferences and our own needs and advocate for them, we can start to create safety in me. And here's another part of perfectionism. I had to overhaul my mindset around movement, constantly monitoring my posture, the movements, the things that I would allow myself to do, the yard work or lifting heavy things. That was sending danger messages to my nervous system, not the actual movements or postures or loads, right? Those weren't the danger signals. The danger signals were, I'm afraid of that. That's not safe for me. I can't do that. Can someone else do that? I'm not sure if that's going to be okay for me. I could hurt myself, right? I could cause a flare. And as a yoga teacher, this was actually a huge change. Those of you who are in the yoga world know that, although I do think this is changing, symmetry and alignment are considered the gold standard for safety. And yet my nervous system and the nervous systems of many of us in the yoga world are getting the exact opposite message. It's not safety, right? Those rigid cues around alignment, those mandates make you feel as if your body is delicate and vulnerable. It can be injured as something as simple as having your knee at the wrong angle, which is just untrue, or that you have to remain perfectly symmetrical to be safe. And what I learned was that was actually causing me pain, a lot of pain. So somatic movement like Feldenkrais technique helped me to unlearn symmetry, to realize that I need a totally different kind of movement style, one which honors the spontaneous organization of the body and the reality that I and all bodies are inherently strong and stable and adaptable. We can be safe in any movement, any posture. What's unsafe is adhering to these arbitrary guidelines around posture and around joint positions. Those in research are shown to be more predictive of chronic pain, not the poor posture. So the perfectionism, this ideal that we're trying to accomplish in vain, that's creating danger in you, not safety. And here's the final thing that I learned that you're not going to hear at your doctor's office. For good reason. Pain care that moves the needle towards sustained relief is always self-directed. A massage can provide temporary relief. Acupuncture can provide temporary relief. A chiropractic adjustment. These are all known. These are shown to indubitably provide temporary relief, but they will never, ever provide permanent relief, because permanent relief comes from self-directed self-care. This is shown in evidence. It's not just me saying this. So that opens up a lot of opportunities, actually, because that means that anything that you can do that provides a felt sense of safety is basically pain care. Yeah. And here's another fact that you probably have not yet learned in your journey. If you have chronic pain, you need more self-care than the average Joe. Self-care is a non-negotiable part of your life. You need routines that provide holistic safety, but you also need movement that facilitates a greater robustness and sense of confidence in you. This is different for all of my clients, right? And we always start in one place and end up in another place, right? We have to work with the body that we have. And often when we first begin, any movement is danger in me. But then soon, movement becomes the stimulus for safety in me. So for me, these daily routines, these self-care strategies are mindfulness practice, a commitment to providing nourishing movement in the form of somatic movement, and and heavy resistance training. I got to go to the gym. I got to lift heavy stuff. I got to push it around. That's actually the most effective strategy for pain care for me. But back when I was at the worst part of my pain journey, oh my gosh, I never. And so if you're thinking, I'll never get there, yes, you will. And you kind of need to, especially if you're a woman who's aging. Sarcopenia, osteopenia, osteoporosis, these are serious, serious concerns. Cardiovascular health, metabolic health, these all require movement, exercise, fitness, okay? So I went through this process alone, right? I had a mentor, but he wasn't there to help me with my pain issue, right? He was there to help me help others with their pain issue. I had to figure this out on my own. And in doing that, I've come up with a really holistic um, menu of strategies that I can use with my clients. Everything from nutrition to nervous system regulation to biofeedback to somatic movement, strength and conditioning, all of these things, right? Mindset. You don't have to go it alone, right? You're sitting in front of an expert. And this self navigation is possible. I did it, but it took me a really long time. It cost me a lot of money. So I guide women in midlife through this exact struggle because I understand the lived experience of pain, not just for myself, but also from helping dozens and dozens of clients through this process, one-on-one clients, and many, many hundreds more in groups and programs. Because each of us is unique. Each of us is unique, and each of us needs a unique strategy, a unique program. So, where should you start? What's the first place to go? Here's the tool that I needed. This would have saved me tens of thousands of dollars. This would have saved me years of pain and misery, and I probably would have gotten out of my marriage much sooner. Actually, I just thought of that part. So maybe you don't want this tool. Just kidding. You probably do. So, I have developed, based on my extensive experience with women in midlife, a neural audit. So this will help you to see what is the role of my nervous system in my pain condition. So if you're hearing at this and you're thinking, this kind of is resonating, do I have neuroplastic pain? The neural audit will go some distance toward helping you to understand that question. And not only that, but it will also provide you with some customized resources that I'm going to send over as a result of your neural audit result. I built this tool because it's exactly what I wish I'd had when I was going through the worst of my pain, guessing which thing to try next, feeling like I was irretrievably broken, right? But when we can acknowledge the role of the nervous systems, when we can acknowledge that pain is so much more complicated than a joint or a muscle or nerves, that's when we can start to find strategies that work. That's when a huge landscape of opportunity opens up to us. And so the neural audit is your entrance to that opportunity. So what I want to know is, do you have any questions for me? Do you have any questions for me? You're sitting in front of an expert, both from lived experience and also working with people with chronic pain. And I don't think we often get to encounter people who have trigeminal neuralgia in the pain world either. So if you're dealing with this, I would be happy to answer your questions about that. I work with women with back pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, IBS, migraines, knee pain. You got it, all of it. Why? I'm not a physician, not a physical therapist. I don't diagnose or treat. I partner with women to help them find holistic lifestyle interventions based on evidence. That means they are proven to provide relief and restore function. So So that's why, because we're addressing the nervous system, these strategies work for such a wide variety of pain conditions, from trigeminal neuralgia to IBS to knee pain to shoulder pain, whether your scans show damage or not. So, if you would like to start this process, if you have just a little glimmer of, wait, this could be the thing that works for me, I'm going to make it really, really easy. Just click that link that's pinned at the top of the chat. Just click that link and start the neural audit. It takes about 3 minutes. And once you've finished that audit, I'm going to send over some customized resources for you based on your results. You can literally start using those resources this evening. There's really no reason to wait. It's absolutely free. You could get some answers. It could open up some new opportunities for you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching this all the way through. It's so rare, so special. I appreciate it. This is going to be up on my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And then you can refer back to this, or if you didn't catch it all, it'll be on in its entirety immediately. So you can go back to the beginning. And if you want to get a hold of me, take the audit and I'll send you an email and you can just reply to that email if you're too shy to ask questions on here. So again, thank you for attending. I love your attention and I can't wait to get to know you once you've done that audit. Thanks.